Hello, everyone. This is the Reverend Dr. David Chotka of Spirit Equipped Ministries. I've been praying for the Ukraine. You've been praying for the Ukraine. And while I was doing my devotions this morning, I read two passages, one from the book of Judges about Gideon's victory, his little army, defeating an invading army of tens of thousands. And of course, the parallel is quite exact. And a psalm where it talks about the Lord defeating those who oppress people. So I brought both of these together in my prayer time, and I realized that there's a myth in the story of how we manage this narrative called Gideon's army. We hold up one part of the text and we don't look at all the rest of it. So this is a Mythbusters moment. I'm going to myth bust a misconception, if I can say it that way, because there's a myth about Gideon's army that needs to be corrected. Now, one of my very favorite programs on television was called Mythbusters. It was a program that would look at Hollywood stunts to see whether or not they actually could have happened in reality, or whether it was just a little bit of Hollywood. And it was lots of fun. The fun of the program was watching the testing team set up the conditions for the test, and then they'd weigh the evidence, usually by blowing something up or lighting some fuse or something like this. And then the TV audience would watch the test to see whether or not the thing could actually happen. Then as a team and as the audience, we would all render a judgment. And we'd either say, yes, the thing could happen, or the myth was busted. Sometimes the answer was yes, sometimes the answer was no, and sometimes it was, well, maybe, it's possible, given the right conditions. But it's time right now for a myth about this story of Gideon's army to be put to rest. Well, not exactly to be put to rest, but be to put in proper perspective. This one is partly right. There's lots of truth attached to how we manage the story, but usually a wrong conclusion. It's all about Gideon having an army of 300 fighting men dealing with an army of invaders that had tens and thousands of invaders who had ravaged their land over generations. The myth was that Gideon's army of 300 completely destroyed the vastly superior army of Midian with their tens of thousands who brought them very low. 300 guys in 3 groups of 100 each, standing at different spots around the enemy camp in the night, breaking jugs, holding up a torch, and screaming for the Lord and for Gideon, giving the impression that hundreds of thousands of warriors were about to attack them. They blew their trumpets, they raised their shout, and here's what happened. This is what the text says in Judges chapter 7. When they blew the 300 trumpets, the Lord set the sword of one against another, even throughout the whole army, and the army fled. That's Judges 7, verse 22. There's lots of sermons, there's a lot of devotionals, and much ink has been spilled on that exciting moment. Yet that is not where the story ended. Trouble is that most of the writing, most of the preaching, most of the teaching stops there. But the next several verses contains the remaining details that we need to understand as we pray into this situation with Putin's war against the Ukrainians for no good reason. Listen to the text. This is chapter 7, the verse after, 23, all the way through to the beginning of 25. The men of Israel were summoned from Naphtali, Asher, and Manasseh, and they pursued Midian. And Gideon sent messengers throughout all the hill country of Ephraim, saying, "Come down against Midian and take the waters before them, as far as Bethbara and the Jordan." So all the men of Ephraim were summoned, and they took the waters as far as Bethbara and the Jordan, and they captured the 2 leaders of Midian. The squad of 300 began the battle. Then the leader of the 300 called out for all those who could rise up and finish the job to help them. And tens of thousands of warriors rose up to get it done at the decisive time, after the initial thing with the trumpets and the lights and so on. Gideon's army was very, very, very small, only for one battle in one instance. And then the world rallied around them. The world of their reluctant allies actually rallied around them to defend the helpless. After an evil invader, Midian, had destroyed their lands for generations, wiping out their crops, stealing their goods, and destroying their infrastructure. I can't help but bear this in mind as I pray for the land of my ancestors, the Ukraine. A medium-sized country, a small one by world standards, oppressed for generations, finally free, just getting its legs under it after 30 years of being free, overrun by a vastly superior army of a bully nation that had plundered them throughout all of their history from time immemorial. Their small army has actually done valiantly, and to the surprise of the entire planet, their staunch and fierce resistance against the invader has inflicted terrific losses against the Russian army. It's really kind of an astonishing thing that they're still having their feet under them. Yet they are fighting alone. And so my prayer is that those who have the power to stop this intervene in any way that they can. That nations that have the ability to do what they can would not simply watch from the sidelines as the bully nation destroys hospitals, fires missiles at people's homes and kills innocents, and attempts to assassinate their democratically elected leader because they want him out to be replaced by a thug from their own country who would bow in subservience to the bully nation. I am praying that Gideon's army inspire the rest of the earth, to rise up to defend the helpless against the invader. So I've been praying a single verse from Psalm 147 as I've pondered this, and I paraphrased it. It's Psalm 147:6. You can look it up in your own translations, but I'm going to give you the paraphrase that has come to me as I pray. Here's the paraphrase. The Lord raises up the ones who have been thrown down to the ground, and the Lord throws down to the ground those who tripped the ones who've fallen. That's Psalm 47, verse 6. That's my own paraphrase. So God, let these two scriptures be found true in these perilous times. Please, pray for the redemption of that country. If you've watched the last blog, pray for God to embarrass the demonic assault. This is the Reverend Dr. David Chotka of Spirit Equipped Ministries. If you want to receive regular blogs like this, you can subscribe on our page, www.spiritequipped.com. And you'll receive these blogs whenever they're published. They'll be pushed out to you. And you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is Spirit Equipped Ministries. May the Lord bless you. May he lead you. May he guide you. And may your praying be focused and your actions be true toward what it is he's asking us to be, do, and become.